Good evening. All right, we're going to share our screen. And it is chaos. The babies are still awake. The dog's been running around. The husband's being ridiculous. Welcome to Fitness Eval. I'm going to go through the syllabus with you guys since we missed today meeting face to face. And that way, that'll take care of all the house cleaning stuff so that we can start off quick out of the gate, because this is a very fast paced course. We have a lot of content to cover. I'm eating Skittles, so I'm chewing on. So the syllabus is right here. I'm sharing my screen with you. This is on Folio, but currently it's as a Google Doc that's being shared with you. I'm going to have a Word version, but I'm on my Mac and the formatting was being crazy. So for now, this is how you have access to it on Folio. So you can see class time Tuesday, Thursday, 3:30 to 4:45. We're going to be meeting in Hollis 2101 for your lab, though, on Friday. And it is a mixed bag for the lab. So Dr. Karp, Ms. Coleman, and me were all three teaching sections of this lecture. And there's 4 different labs on Friday, as y'all should know. And if you're not currently registered for a lab, make sure that you do that. You cannot miss this Friday. You have to be there. Attendance is very important for this class, and we'll talk about that in a second. And you hear my little man, they're playing on their Nintendo Switch and they're getting a little rowdy. You've got to come to class, make sure that you're, you know what time your lab is. There's going to be, I think, a few different classes from lecture mixed sometimes in the lab section. So just be aware of that. You can see our graduate assistant. So Sam is going to be the GA or the teaching assistant for the second 2 or the last 2 lab times on Friday. So if you have one of the 2 later lab times, he's going to be your grad assistant. McKenna's going to have the 2 morning ones. All of your prereqs. I don't think we have many of you who are taking 3542 and 4231 concurrently. So that's XFIS with Fitness Eval. If you are in that boat, I need you to come and see me ASAP, because this is going to be extremely rigorous and you're going to have to do a lot of reading ahead of time to make sure that you're successful, because you're supposed to have already had XFIS before you take this. This is like the last course that you're supposed to take other than maybe admin principles. The whole goal of this course is to tie everything together that you've had your entire undergrad curriculum, and also to prepare you to sit for the ACSM EPC. So Ms. Coleman, me, Dr. Melton, there's a bunch of us, but we're all certified exercise physiologists through the American College of Sports Medicine. That's what we want you to be qualified to sit for, that exam by the end of this course. And if you do take the test by the end of finals week and you pass it, you get an automatic A in the course. So food for thought if you want to do that. We're hoping to hear back from our accrediting body. We applied for accreditation and had our site visit last April. And there's all these different committees that have to approve all the things. And they're supposed to have their final last meeting where the top tier group is supposed to review our application on the 18th of this month. And hopefully we'll hear back. Why that is important is because if we do get our accreditation, then your cost to take this exam is going to be dramatically reduced by hundreds of dollars. So before you go out and sign up to take the exam, wait until we get our accreditation results back, because that might give you a big discount on your cost for sitting for the exam. And that's just a little bit about what an exercise physiologist is qualified to do, what their role is. You can see our program level outcomes. What are you supposed to learn in this class? I'm not going to read all those to you. When you do read that on your own, though, a lot of that, this is review. So I'm not supposed to be teaching you. I have no idea why there's a little thumbs up. A lot of you should be able to like think bioenergetics. I'm not going to teach you bioenergetics. I'm going to review a little bit because Miss Yarborough taught you bioenergetics in ex-phys. I'm going to review a little bit, and then you're going to be putting all of that together and applying it to different exercise prescriptions related to whatever goal your client or the case that you're looking at needs for their specific situation. So I'm not reteaching all of the basics. You should know the basics, and then we're going to look at applying them to real life situations in this class. Your textbooks, this is the main one that we will be looking at. The third edition here, it's like a pinky color. It looks like it's from the 80s. It's like pink and teal. Then you also have the little guidelines for exercise testing and prescription. It's a little spiral book. The other classes I think are recommending that you have the little book. I'm requiring it. You need it. There's a lot of charts and things that the big textbook doesn't have. And I'm going to provide as much of it through your PowerPoints and pictures and different things that I'm going to pull from the text for you in your supplementary materials. But if I were you, I would go ahead and get the books ASAP. I'm not sure where the bookstore is at on having them in stock. So I'm going to try to scan in the first few chapters for you. But get those books as soon as you can. They're very important to have. Also, if you can, get a blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope, and you get what you pay for. So if you're really struggling as we're going through basic vitals, like taking blood pressures and trying to really be competent in that skill, if you're really struggling to hear, you might want to invest in a good stethoscope. Mine's a Littmann. Littmann's like the gold standard. Most nurses or healthcare practitioners, like in the hospital setting, they're going to rock Littmann. Anywhere from probably $60 to like $200. So they're going to be pricey, but you're going to get what you pay for. If you get something that's pretty cheap, it's going to be very hard to hear, or you're going to hear everything and you're not going to be able to distinguish between what's feedback and just interference and what's the actual correct cough sound. So just FYI, think about that. You'll see later on, you have a community blood pressure assignment where you're responsible for getting 100 community blood pressures. The YMCA is a site that we can use for this. They know that you're going to be coming. There's a little seating area right when you come in. And I'm going to be there most days, either working with phase 3 cardiac rehab or my personal training students, or they're teaching a fitness class. So I'll be checking in and out, but there'll be certain times where they know that fitness eval students are going to be there to take free blood pressures. I have a few cuffs there, and I have a few Littmanns there that you can use at the Y. So just FYI, since we're talking about the equipment right there. All right. How are you going to be evaluated? So what exactly are the assessments in this class? So CPR certification, if you already have your CPR cert, and it has to have a practical, hands-on, in-person component. A lot of them are hybrid now, where you do like online modules on your own, and then you show up for an in-person test out. If you don't have a test out, if yours is all online, that is not going to be sufficient for you to sit for the cert. It does not meet the standards of our program. Okay, so you've got to have that in-person check off. We're going to be holding 1 or 2 throughout department. Miss Kirkendall is going to hold one. We don't have a date yet for that. And then Hannah at the Y, the executive director, she's going to host one. She's trying to nail down a date. Your deadline for that is March 1st. You have to have your current valid CPR certification documents, your card, certificate, whatever they gave you, because there's a few different forms that they might give you your credential, but you've got to upload that into the CPR cert Dropbox by March 1st, or you get no points for it. Syllabus quiz. Don't look at the syllabus quiz until I tell you. I'm going to link it in the news blast. because some of those items are linked to Miss Coleman's questions. And I'm a little more strict in some areas of my policies than Miss Coleman is, and vice versa. There's some other things that she's a little more strict on in her syllabus quiz. So you got to read that syllabus if you're going to do well on the quiz. And two, I'm not there to answer your questions and talk to you about it today. So we wanted to make sure that you were really reading through this document. A lot of times students never read the syllabus quiz, and then they ask us all kinds of crazy questions. And we're like, it's in the syllabus. So read the syllabus. You're going to have 2 exams and then 1 final comprehensive exam. You'll also have monthly challenges. So for January, this first one is going to be a sleep challenge. We're putting together the specifics on that, but you're going to make a SMART goal related to sleep, and you're going to reflect on how it goes. So it could be something like no screens for the 30 minutes prior to your bedtime, or setting a bedtime to be consistently going to sleep at the same time every day. Could be something like that. Let's see, there's 4 of those because you're going to have a January, a February, a March, and an April challenge. Those are 25 points apiece, and you're not graded on whether or not you were perfect in the challenge. The whole point is you make a goal, you try to achieve it. There's some hiccups, there's some things that you have to adjust to. How do you handle that? And then reflecting on that. That is exactly what you are trying to do as a practitioner with your clients. You help them set a goal, and then you hope they're going to be able to adhere to it, but different obstacles are going to come up. You might think that something is a really good idea, and then you see it's not operational at all. And you're going to have to react to that and adjust. How do you do that? You're going to have in-class participation, attendance, and quizzes. We will have some form of a pop quiz every week. I'm not going to tell you what day it's on. You'll know what topic it's over. So for example, you're going to have a case study next week on the pre-screening algorithm. And if you don't know what the pre-screening algorithm is, then you need to read your first 2 chapters in your book. And we're going to talk about that on Thursday. Quizzes online, those are going to cover most of our content areas. They are open now, and they close at the end of the semester. Unlimited attempts, they should be gimme points. If you wait until the last minute to do them, it's not going to be pretty. They're going to help prepare you for your exams in here, but they're also going to prepare you for the official certification exam. So take those as many times as you can. They're from a pretty large bank, so you should get a good distribution of questions. But those are 2 separate things. So you see quizzes and the in-class participation piece, and then you see the online quizzes, 2 different things. So you're doing the online quizzes on your own time. The in-person participation, attendance, and quizzes, like I'm going to give you a blank sheet of paper, for example, and say, regurgitate the entire risk factor chart for cardiovascular disease risk. So family history, what does that mean? Obesity, how is that defined based on the risk factor chart? So you're going to have to produce that for me. That's just an example. I might have you like replicate the blood pressure stratification chart. And I'm going to give you a heads up, but you don't know what day of the week necessarily I'm going to be doing the quiz. So you better be ready. Lab assessments. So every Friday you're going to lab, and it's a 2-hour lab, and we're not getting out early. We got a lot of stuff to do. So you have a lab assignment almost every Friday. You're going to have 2 practical checkoff exams. They're both 35 points apiece. The first one is over your basic vitals, where you're going to demonstrate that you can take somebody's pulse or heart rate. You're going to be able to do a blood pressure, height, weight, all that good stuff. We're not just going to be grading you on the actual skill of you taking the blood pressure, but did you sanitize your hands? Did you introduce yourself? Were you able to establish a rapport with the person that you're evaluating? Did you explain what you were doing and get their informed consent? Did you tell them what the purpose of the test is? Did you give them their blood pressure results and with a proper classification? So let's say it was pre-hypertensive. Did you tell them that? And were you correct based on the results that you got. Sorry, I don't know if you could hear her, but she was like, "Mommy, pick me up." And then you have the basic vitals check off for the community. That's the 100 blood pressures that I'm talking about. So we'll get to that a little bit more detailed in a second. You also have an individual training report where you're going to have a client that you program for, and you're writing out a big program for them: cardiorespiratory fitness prescription, the resistance training prescription, their flexibility prescription, the whole thing. Everything that we're learning, tying it all together in a big pretty bow, like the real thing, like you really had a client. And that is going to be explained in much more detail in lab by the graduate assistants. And then that total point value for lab is going to be 300 points. So we've got a 40-60 split, with 60% coming from your lecture and 40% coming from your lab. Let's see. This is technically a hybrid class. We're going to meet in person 99.9% of the time. However, we are traveling for a conference in late February. So you might have a little bit of online work for that Friday's lab. It's going to be, I think, goniometry and other flexibility assessments that you could do on your own. Let's see. If something happens, though, I've got 3 small children. If they get sick and my husband's traveling, for example, and we have to go online, we do have online content prepared. So class isn't just going to be canceled and you get like a free day. There's going to be something that you'll be doing if that does happen. Let's see. Important dates. Make sure you're paying attention to drop ad. Last day to withdraw without academic penalty, March 4th. You see our final exam at this time is scheduled for Thursday, May 2nd, 3 to 5. Last semester, I don't know if y'all realized, a lot of those times got changed after this point in the semester. So hopefully the provost isn't going to change that. But if that does happen and I hear that things are getting changed, I'll make sure to tell you that it's going to be changed. Tell them, hey, no, or not. Okay, let Mom finish. Your 2 tests, it would be 50 to 75 questions a piece, all different formats, mostly multiple choice. In my head, I'd love to do some written response, but I don't know if I'm going to physically have time to grade them. So you'll need your Scantron 29240, the same one that you used for like every class that you've ever had in our department. Let's see, lab assignments. You are going to meet in a variety of places. The first few weeks, though, we're going to be meeting in Hanner in the same lab space that you had XPhys in. Same exact place. The rest of the time, though, you'll be in different places in the rack. Let's see. Late submissions will be accepted up to 3 days post due date with a 20% deduction for each day late. If you do not submit your lab after those 3 days, you will get a 0. So a day late, 80, next day, 60, 40, then 0. Let's see. Yeah, your checkoffs in lab. So if it's a practical checkoff and you miss it, it's a 0. And that's a huge part of your grade. So just make sure you're paying attention. Those are going to be a little bit weird. You're going to actually sign up for your slot to take your practical check off. So let's say, for example, I attend the 245 to 445 lab, but I'm supposed to go out of town, and it just so happens that it's on the day of one of our practical checkoffs. So I get the Google sign up sheet and I sign up for the 8:30 a.m. slot. And then I forget because I'm used to going at 2:45 and I miss my practical checkoff time. That's a 0. Okay, so make sure that you're paying attention because it might not be during your regularly scheduled lap time. And you're going to have a 20 to 30-minute slot where you would show up to take your test. And then once you're done for the day. So just pay attention to what time you sign up for. The community blood pressure check off. So you have 100 of those blood pressures and basic vitals that you're going to have to do, not repeats on the same person. This is 100 different people. So 40 of those participants need to be older than 40. 40 need to be 40 or younger. And then the other 20 are just a straight up convenience sample. You're going to be in a class of 25 to 35 people. So right there, you have a huge part of your sample. You can also get me and Miss Coleman, and I know Miss Yarborough, like ask your faculty. I'm not over 40 yet though, so you're going to need to find some older people. So start thinking about where you could find these people. I will tell you at the Y, we do have a substantial geriatric population, and a lot of them are very willing to let you take their blood pressure. Now, 10 of you don't need to show up though at the same time and take the same poor person's blood pressure 5 bajillion times. So think ahead, plan ahead, do not wait until the last minute. And you have 5 check-ins where you're going to have 20 of these evaluations due. So by February 9th, you have to have 8 older than 40, 8 40 or younger, and then 4 participants of any age. Altogether, 20. You have to get your first 20 done by February 9th. So get on it. You have a month. You literally have a month from today. Make sure you're looking at your deadlines here. So March 1st, and remember, I already told you, but the CPR cert is due that same day. You're also going to have in the rubric for your community blood pressures, there are certain criteria that you have to have in order to get full credit. So you have to do the blood pressure, for example, in both arms. You have to give the correct classification for the blood pressure reading. So was it normal? Was it pre-hypertensive? Was it stage 1? Was it stage 2? If you get the classification wrong, let's say the whole thing's worth 1 point, you're going to miss a quarter of those points because you got one part of the assignment wrong. So make sure you're very diligent in looking at the directions and you're doing everything correctly. And you should stop making weird noises. You should also have the stratification, the list right there with you when you're doing the evaluation, just to make sure that you're classifying things correctly. Your training report, we already talked about that. You're going to be programming cardiorespiratory fitness, muscular fitness, flexibility, neuromotor, body comp, and weight management, and behavioral modifications. Very detailed rubric. It's like your big capstone project for your entire undergraduate career in exercise science. So it's a big deal, and it's going to take a long time, but you can do it, and it should be fun. It shouldn't appear daunting. This is exactly what you've been working towards being able to do professionally. If you were out in the field and you got a client, this is what you would be doing. Your final exam, it's comprehensive, 100 questions, probably going to be all multiple choice. Same Scantron, again, your date at this time, and I'm hoping it's not going to change. I think last semester that was just a weird, crazy rescheduling thing that happened. But as of now, it's May 2nd, 3 to 5 on that Thursday. Again, if you decide to take the official cert and you pass, and you submit that certification to me by 5 p.m. on May 3rd, then you pass the class with an A. Monthly challenges. So you can see here the themes. January's theme is sleep. February is cardiorespiratory fitness. March is going to be resistance training and some flexibility. And then April is going to be nutrition. So for all of those, you're going to create a specific goal, a SMART goal. So who, what, when, and where, like you're going to craft these challenges, and we'll give you a little bit of guidance. And we're going to talk about this more on Thursday, specifically regarding the sleep challenge. Measurable. What are you using to record data or feelings? So for example, if I'm trying to monitor my heart rate during my sleep, which could be reflective of how well I'm sleeping, I could use my Apple Watch to look at that. If you have a wearable, maybe like a Whoop band, that's a really good one for tracking sleep too. You might not be able to track something like that because maybe you don't have a wearable. Maybe it's going to be, I'm going to look at my clock and make sure I'm in bed by this time. That's measurable. You were either in bed by 10 or you weren't. But you need specific criteria, something that you can actually measure, data that you can report. It has to be measurable. And you can also do some qualitative things, like how did you feel? But you're going to have to actually record that data and provide it. Attainable is something that you can actually do. So clearly, some of you who might have a job, let's say you bartend, and your shift, it ain't gonna get off until like 2 a.m. Well, don't make a sleep goal that doesn't align with your job. So it needs to be attainable, something that's actually realistic, relevant. Is it something that you care about? Is it something that actually fits in with what you're trying to do? Time bound. Some of them are going to be for 7 consecutive days. Some of these might be a little bit longer than that. It depends on what they are. And you'll get more details about that when we meet on Thursday. You're going to have 3 components to each. So for example, it might be looking at sleep quality. It might be a consistent waking up time. And then it might be a ritual or a routine that you try to initiate prior to going to bed. So that's 3 different things that I'm looking at in my sleep goal. So that's just one example of how it could be looked at. Your reflection, that's the part where I really want to see, what are you doing? What did you choose to do? What worked? What didn't work? And that iterative process is extremely important with your clients. You can prescribe for them all day long, but if it's something that's not working for them, or maybe they mastered it and it's not difficult enough, it's not challenging enough, and you need to go back and add to it or make it more challenging, harder, they're ready for a progression, let's say, in their cardio. It's an iterative process for every single client that you have, and that reflective process is really important. And then we're going to have a social media component that would be bonus. So if you post about it and tag the club and our undergrad exercise science program on all the social media handles that you have, that could be worth some points. If you get a certain number of followers, I don't know. We're trying to work out how we're going to actually do that, but it will be something along those lines for the social media component. Your online quizzes, we already talked about that. They're all going to be due May 3rd by 12 p.m. Like noon. Let's see, attendance. All right. Class starts at 3. Ooh, that says 3. Starts at 3:30, not 3. I will not be there at 3. I will still be teaching another class at 3. So I'll go in and fix that. Actually, I should be able to fix it right now. Forgot, because this is a live document. I've never done an actual like Google Doc for my syllabus before, so I can change it right now. You have to be active in your participation, and attendance is mandatory. If you are an athlete though, and you've got a university event, your coach should be supplying me with those dates. That's going to be excused, and we're going to work out how you're going to make up that work. If you have an illness, I've got to have documentation, and the provost does not want us accepting direct excuses from you because that's a FERPA and HIPAA violation. So you need to go through the dean of students. So make sure that you do that. You have 3 days from that time to get me that dean of students notification. So as soon as you know something's wrong, you need to be contacted the dean of students. And you've got to be in contact with me to let me know what's going on. So let's say you're trying to get a doctor's appointment and you're a little bit delayed in that. Make sure that you are doing everything as soon as possible so that you can make that 3-day deadline to get documentation provided to me from the Dean of Students. And just because you submit something to the Dean of Students doesn't mean that a faculty member has to actually approve it. We have the right to not approve whatever. So just so you know that, make sure, and I'm not an ogre, all of you have had me before, but you've got to have documentation if I'm going to consider giving you an excused absence. With lab, because we have 4 different sections, let's say some of you have a PT school interview. This happened last semester. I had 4 who had a PT school interview on Friday, and they needed to leave Friday before lunch to get up to where they were going to go over the weekend for all of their interview stuff. And they were able to take a swap with somebody and go to the first lab of Friday instead of the last lab of Friday. That we can work on, but it can't just be, oh, I'm just going to tell Susie Q that I'm going to switch with her. You have to tell me, and you have to tell Ms. Coleman, and you also need to be in communication with both of the graduate assistants, because we have to make preparations. Sometimes it's a space issue. Sometimes it's an equipment issue, and we have limited resources. So we need to know if things are going to be switched around. Excessive absenteeism. So if you have 2 or more unexcused absences, you have a mandatory meeting with me, and we're going to discuss if you can be successful in the class or not. I'm not trying to make anybody fail. I want you to all be successful. If you're not physically in class, though, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to be successful. If you have 3 unexcused absences, you automatically fail the course. Unexcused. That means no documentation from the Dean of Students, and it's just flaky stuff, no communication with me. They're unexcused. If you have 3, you're done. You have an F. Let's see. Also, we had a little issue with this last year too. Test questions specifically cover material presented in the reading from your required textbooks, lectures, discussions in class, so your PowerPoints, and lab. So if Sam tells y'all something in lab on Friday, you are responsible for that in your lecture exams. When you're instructed to read a chapter in the textbook, you're responsible for all of that information. So if I have a question on the exam and I hear, well, that wasn't in the PowerPoint, I don't really care. You're responsible for it. Most of you are planning to go to graduate school, and you're going to be expected to read all sorts of things and research on your own beyond what is actually talked about in the classroom. I don't physically have time to go through everything that you are responsible for in class face-to-face. So make sure you are staying up on your reading. And that's one of the purposes of the quizzes too, is to help make sure that you're staying up on your reading. Just make sure you're responsible for that too. It's not always just going to be what I'm talking about in my PowerPoint. What, buddy? Sid, you need to share. Actually, y'all need to put on your jammies. It's almost 9. Put on your jammies. Jammy time. Brush your teeth. It's not anybody's turn. It's jammy time. Jammies. Jammies. I'm on Zoom. Shh. Shh. All right. Additionally, in-class assignments and quizzes. Remember I told you pop quizzes, every week you're going to have those. There are no makeups for those unless I have approved Dean of Students notifications, or military orders. Some of y'all, you might be in the reserves or something. You might be reporting for duty somewhere. You might have a training. If that's the case, I just need orders from your commanding officer and you'll be good to go. And we'll fix a makeup for you. Fridays, again, got to be there too for lab every single time. These are your specific lab times. The last 2 are the ones that I supervise, and Sam will be with me there. Let's see. This is a professional degree, so don't cheat. That's it. Cell phones, smartwatches, headphones,
Mama, it's my turn.
put them on and brush your teeth. Cooper, cut it out, dude. All of those are prohibited during exams. If you're caught with them, whether you were using them or not during an exam, you will get a 0. We've had multiple cheating incidents. We've had people last semester write out notes on the back of their Scantron. Like, no cheating. No cheating. It will come back to bite you. I absolutely despise it. So please do not do it. Student accessibility policy. If you have accommodations, get those to me ASAP so that we can make sure that you have everything set up the way you need it. Dates may change, and I reserve the right to do that. Let's see. Communication with me in office hours. So a lot of you know that I'm all over the place. I'm at the Y sometimes supervising a program. I have personal training students who are going to be training mock clients there this semester. I'm in the phase 3 cardiac rehab over there. And then I also teach classes at a few places. So if you need to meet during office hours, that's totally fine. Outside of that, you might be able to pop over to the Y and meet with me there, especially if it's something where you need to work on cueing an exercise or learning an exercise. I'm happy to meet with you to do that too. If you need to email me, make sure you're using my Georgia Southern email, not Folio. I do not check Folio email. You can also send me a text on my cell, which I've given to you there. We also are going to have a GroupMe. If you do direct message me though through the GroupMe, make sure you're telling me who you are and what class you're in. I teach a lot of different classes, but I also have different GroupMes for my different personal training clients or the group fitness people that I have at different places. So make sure that you're telling me who you are, what class you're in, and be very specific in your information so that I can really help you. Inclusion statement, you can read through that. The COVID clause, illnesses, ADA accommodations. All right, new AI. We are going to have a few assignments where you are asked to use AI. If you are using AI when you are writing up emails, reflections, anything like that, you need to be using your own thoughts. And if you're having maybe Grammarly or something proofread, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to reference that you use that. Make sure that you are open saying, yes, I ran what I wrote through Grammarly and made edits based off of what it gave me. Like, you need to cite that. AI is here to stay. It's just going to keep getting more and more integrated in everything that we do. So we're embracing it, and we're going to try to think of some really creative ways that we can use it and also help you learn how to use it so that you're competent in it as you enter the workforce. Yes, buddy. Sid, let Koopy have some turns. Sydney, go get dressed. All day, every day. Read through this policy though in detail. Make sure that you, Cooper, yes, and hush. Make sure that you've read through the whole syllabus and look through module 1. You're going to see your PowerPoints for that content. We're going to hit pre-screening really hard on Thursday with some activities to help you practice applying that. And you'll have your syllabus quiz due by the end of the week too, which I've got to make a few tweaks to that before I post it. All righty. You'll have a great evening. I'm about to do some disciplining of my children.